So today I cooked this piece of Winford Wagyu brisket, full-blooded Wagyu, British Wagyu, on the Traeger grills, and I think it might have just changed my life forever. It is unbelievable. Trust me. I know it's a tiny piece of brisket, you don't need a lot. The fat content is wild in this. Trust me, you're gonna love this. Check it out. Guys, exciting day today. I've just taken delivery of a care package from Winford Wagyu, British Wagyu, Shropshire Wagyu in fact. They're just from Newport down the road. They are producing the most insane Wagyu beef that I have ever tasted. Like, you know, it is literally up there with anything I've had from Japan. This is a brisket. Now, it's only a piece of the brisket, right? Which is also exciting because normally you have to cook a massive brisket, right? Every time, or at least a point end. And particularly with the flat, normally the flat part of the brisket is kind of lean, especially if it's a British brisket, you know. And that's one of the reasons I don't cook it very often, because we just don't have the fat marbling that we need with our grass-fed, beautiful British beef, and it is beautiful. We just don't have the same kind of marbling as they do over in America where they corn feed their beef, right? However, at Winford, the cattle are grass-fed for most of the time. They are finished on grain right at the end, but they are kept in the most amazing setting, had the most beautiful life, and it makes the most beautiful beef. According to the packet, we have a marble score of 9 on this brisket, 10 being top. A5 Wagyu is normally 10. This is right up there, folks. Let's get it out of the packet and have a look. It's a perfect size to treat your friends. Now look, just look at that. Unbelievable. The marbling running through it. Let's just take a look at the end here. Look at that. Now, I would be tempted, in fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to slice a little piece off the end and I'm just going to cook it as a steak. You could never eat brisket as a steak, but how could I not resist trying that? But the rest of it, we are just going to cook low and slow. Well, say low and slow. Actually, not really low and slow. We're going to cook it hot and fast. We're going to cook it at 150 degrees just because we've got the Traeger lit over there and we've got a load of cofters on. I'm at work here. We sort of, you know, this is a bit of a working lunch, if you like. I've grabbed half an hour. I'm going to taste this Wagyu today. I can't resist. You know, got it delivered yesterday and I've just got to try it. So, little experiment. We're going to take off just this end and I'm just going to throw that over some live fire inside. Now I've sliced that. Look at that intermuscular fat. It's just insane. And that is all going to melt out and be unbelievable. We've got this fat cap on the top here. Some people would trim that. I reckon just because it's such a thin piece of beef, I mean, it's not like there's any danger of that drying out, but I don't think it's really going to need a little bit of a trim. We could maybe shave a little bit off, and then we've got some Wagyu fat for later, just to, look at that, oh, amazing. Just to have for whatever. There's always ways of using beef fat. Now, I always say, don't fuck with good beef, right? You just really need salt and pepper, but over in the States, they all swear by the old Lowry seasoned salt as a base layer. So we're going to give that a little bit of a dusting. So in Lowry's first. Just look at that marbling. It's insane. But we're going to cover it up now in some seasoning. So light dusting. Because this is almost the thickness of a steak, I'm not going to go crazy with the salt. I want to taste that beef. So I've given the Lowry's and then I'm just going to use a tiny little dusting of table salt as well. Now, I prefer table salt to any other salt just because I can get a really even coating of it and I can see it's all gone on and I can see that it all has kind of dissolved into the meat. I wouldn't finish a steak with table salt, but for a pre-season like this, you know, before you cook, I prefer it because, well, it's a lot cheaper as well. You know, if you're in the restaurant, it's hard times right now. So I would never be using the sea salt for that. But obviously it has its place. But yeah, so table salt. And then, of course, plenty of pepper. Now, we're not going to hold back on the pepper. And we're going to use a nice coarsely ground or cracked black pepper, if you like. Just going to work that onto the one side. Now, I'm not going to put that on this little bit here, just because that's going over in a ferocious fire and the pepper will burn. So I'm going to put that out the one side. but because this is going to be cooked indirect in a pellet smoker, now this is a new one on me, but Traeger kindly sent me their Timberline, and to be honest, we've been super impressed with it. It's been really, really handy to have here at Embers. You know, lots of our sort of prep goes through the Traeger, but I certainly haven't treated it to a prime piece of meat like this yet. And so this really is sort of like a bit of a baptism for the Traeger, and for me to familiarise myself. You think, right, we're in the middle of the countryside, yeah, here, and you just hear someone's fan belt going up the back. It kind of ruins the illusion, doesn't it, a little bit? So apologies for all of the commotion. Anyway, so I'm packing that on. I would say that that is done. Now, all we need to do, obviously we're going to have to monitor the temperature of this quite closely, and so my good old mate, the meter here, is going to go in to the thickest part of this piece of brisket. That is so soft. It's not even cooked yet, and it's going in like butter because there's that much fat in this brisket. It's going to be insane, isn't it? I can't wait. I can't wait. Right, let's get it on the grill. See what happens. Got lamb koftas in here already, ticking away. But I asked Chef to leave me a little spot up this end. So that's just going to sit there. And that's it. We haven't got a lot else to do. Just going to wait for that to cook. And then I'm going to let you know how it tastes. We're just going to try out this piece of brisket just because it's so fatty. It looks so delicious. Never cooked a bit of brisket like a steak before. But I mean, just interested to see what happens. So while we wait for it to cook, I'm going to throw it straight onto this fire. Keep it moving. It's not going to need long. Try and build up that caramelization on the outside. That's really dancing now. We're done. Let that rest up and just give it a little try. Right, let's have a look at this. It's rested. Slicing nicely. Looks like Wagyu inside. Obviously I've cooked it beyond pink. Wow. I mean, it's got a bit of bite, but that is delicious. Literally so good. You couldn't do that with a normal bit of brisket, but look. Just pulling it apart in my mouth. And that's because of all that fat. So what that's going to be like, I have no idea, but trust me, man. Like, I could eat that as a steak all day long. Really, really, really tasty. Right then, so we've hit like 72 degrees now on the meter. Now normally with the brisket, you know, I'm going to wrap it at around about that, sort of 72, 75. I said I wasn't going to wrap this. We haven't really looked at it. Chef's just taken out the koftas, and I can sort of see it in the corner of my eye. We're going to have a proper look. So, come and have a look. Look at that. To me, that doesn't appear to be drying out anywhere. Might turn it over. But it feels really, really moist to touch still. I think it's going to be absolutely fine. Turn it back so that fat cap's on the top. It's moist all over. The nice thing about cooking just that little piece of flat as well is it's a totally even piece of brisket. You know, if you cook in a whole brisket and you've got the point and then the flat to deal with, it's really difficult to get it all cooked bang on. But I feel like that is going to be pretty even all over just because it's a nice slab and that marbling running all the way through it. It's looking really good. I'm really, really hoping this is going to be one of the best pieces of brisket I've ever tasted. And I have high hopes. It looks amazing. It's the 5-minute warning. Oh yes, come on, brisket. I really, 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 really want to have a look at it, but I know that if I look, it's going to slow it down. So I'm just going to wait. I haven't looked at it since it was on 72 degrees. Yeah, exciting, man. It is time. Woohoo! Let's see. Ignore the cauliflower. It's all about the brisket, baby. Look at that. Oof. I don't even know how to pick it up. Just gently. Smallest chunk of brisket I've ever cooked in my life, but probably the one I'm the most excited about. Look at that. Because it's such a small piece of meat normally, you know, when you're resting it's a big brisket, right? This is the size of a big steak, I suppose. So I am just going to rest it for as long as the meter tells me. That's the beauty of using the meter. It does tell you how long to rest your meat. And essentially what the thermometer is looking for is for that temperature to start to dip again. Because when you take the meat off of the grill or off your heat source, the temperature is still going to be rising inside. So it's waiting for that to peak and start to drop again. And obviously you can't tell that by looking at it, but the meter knows. So just let it do its thing, wait and see for it to tell us. It's saying 3 minutes now. We're not going to be waiting very long, I don't think. I cannot wait, man. It's so exciting. I love that sound. It means it's ready. Oh, quite a steep rise at the beginning, and then took a long time. Once it hit the stall, you know, around 70, took a long time to get there. So the entire cook was 3 hours and 4 minutes, which ain't bad for a bit of brisket. That was at 150. So let's see how we fare. Now, obviously, first thing we need to do is whip out the meter, which has done its job. It's gone through very, very, very softly. Whoa. Now, it hasn't broken down in the same way as I'd expect a brisket to. That smoke ring from the Traeger is beautiful though. Look at that. Wow. I'm going to slice a few more pieces and just see. Obviously, you can never really tell fully what it's like until you get into the middle. Look at that intramuscular fat. Could go further, I think. But it's hit 95. And if that steak that we cooked in 30 seconds or 3 minutes is anything to go by, this is still going to melt in your mouth. This is different gravy to your usual brisket, man. I'm going to stop right there and just take one more piece right from the middle. Oof. And have a little go on it. So it's still very, very floppy, like you'd expect brisket to be. If I pull it, it's going to pull apart really, really easily. Oh my God. That's so soft. Amazing. Like, it's almost like, yeah, I'm pulling it and there's a little bit of tension, but honestly, you can probably see as I eat that. It's like, I just pull it, pulls away, pulls apart in your hand. Oh my God. That honestly might be the nicest piece of brisket that I've ever cooked. I've just come back from Texas as well, and you know, this is cooked on a pellet smoker. This is not even like this is, you know, not even being cooked on like a stick burner. This has been cooked on the Traeger. I mean, it has still got more bite than you'd expect brisket to have, but in the mouth, honestly, man, it is so tasty. If you do want a treat for like 4 people, I mean, there's probably enough there for 4 people because it's very, I mean, I can feel as much as I'm eating it very quickly, and I probably might regret it in a minute because it's very fatty and it's so delicious. Like, but honestly, I would thoroughly recommend getting a little piece of brisket like that from Winford Wagyu. It is really, really cool.